What's the most calculated thing you've ever done to protect yourself from someone manipulating you? I outsmarted my gaslighting boss with a notebook that ended his career. My old boss, Mark, was the kind of manipulative manager who thrived on rewriting history. He'd give you verbal instructions, then deny he ever said them. He'd shift deadlines around, then blame you for losing track. He'd say he approved something and then swear you acted without permission. It sounds small until it happens every week, and suddenly your performance reviews look like crime scene reports. So I started a notebook. Nothing dramatic, just everything. Every task, every time he spoke to me, every change he requested, every quick verbal update, and every entry ended with a timestamp and the sentence, "Confirmed with Mark." After 3 months, he tried to blame me for messing up a major client order, one he had changed 3 times. He claimed he never said the version I followed. He tried to throw me under the bus in front of HR and the director. So I pulled out the notebook, his handwriting, his signature, his changes, his final approval with dates matching every email. I watched the blood drain from his face. HR asked if I had more. I handed them 37 pages of documented manipulation. He wasn't fired immediately, but they took away his authority in stages: first client contact, then staff supervision, then scheduling. He resigned 3 months later. My notebook is still in my closet, not because I need it, but because the day I walked out of that office with my dignity intact was the first time I felt truly safe in years. I pretended to be completely clueless until my manipulative ex incriminated himself on camera. My ex had a habit of borrowing my stuff and then denying it. Not huge things, but sentimental ones. Jewelry from my grandma, old journals, signed books. Whenever I confronted him, he'd flip it back on me. "You're too emotional. You misplace everything. You're imagining things." After a while, he had me doubting myself. That was the worst part. Thinking maybe he was right. So I stopped confronting him. Instead, I bought a tiny hidden camera clock. I placed it on my bookshelf, pointed toward my closet where the stuff kept going missing. Then I played dumb. "Oh yeah, maybe I lost it. I am forgetful. Maybe you're right." He got sloppy. The camera caught him taking my debit card, 2 rings, a stack of cash, a private letter, and my medication. He'd hide it in his bag, then act shocked when I found it later. I didn't say anything. I waited 3 weeks. Then I compiled the footage, uploaded it to a private Google Drive folder, and invited his mother, sister, and best friend to view it. Then, and only then, I confronted him. He denied everything. He screamed. He called me insane. So I handed him my phone and played the video. He stared at it in silence, didn't say a word, just walked out of the apartment and left nearly everything behind. His family apologized to me for calling me dramatic over the years. That video saved my sanity. Being quiet wasn't weakness, it was strategy. I ran the longest game of social chess just to escape a friend who owned people. I used to be friends with a woman I'll call S. She wasn't a friend, she was a collector. She liked having people depend on her. She'd give you a favor and then quietly start cashing in on it. You wanted to leave. She'd cry, guilt trip, or threaten to expose your secrets. I was young and lonely and trauma seasoned, so I fell for all of it. Leaving her was like leaving a cult, I swear. So I plotted my escape. Step 1. Stop confiding in her. She couldn't trap me with information she didn't have. Step 2. Slowly reduce my availability so it looked circumstantial. "Oh sorry, late shift. Oh family thing. Oh, not feeling well." Step 3. Build other friendships quietly. People she didn't know. People she couldn't poison. Step 4. Feed her harmless secrets that made me appear boring. My big plan this year is to reorganize my pantry. She lost interest in manipulating meaningless things. Step 5. Set up a timeline. 3 months of distance, 2 months of unpredictability, 1 month of minimal responses. Step 6. Disappear. When I finally cut her off, she tried to guilt trip me with a giant emotional essay about abandoning her. But she couldn't do anything else because she had nothing real on me anymore. No secrets, no weaknesses, no leverage. She reached out 3 more times over the next year. Each time the messages were shorter, more frustrated. Eventually she stopped. No dramatic blowout, no confrontation, just a slow, calculated disengagement. The safest endings are sometimes the quietest ones. I turned my manipulative sister's guilt trips into a flowchart and she never tried it again. I love my sister, but she's one of those people whose main hobbies are guilt, more guilt, weaponized guilt, guilt but with emojis. She'd always pull this thing where she'd ask for something outrageous, and if I said no, she'd hit me with, "Wow, okay, I guess I'm alone in this family." One day I snapped not emotionally, but strategically. I sat down and made a full-color flowchart titled, "How You Manipulate Me, a Scientific Breakdown." It included, if I say no, you bring up childhood sacrifices. If I hesitate, you say you're just disappointed. If I explain, you tell mom. If I agree, you add additional demands. If I still refuse, silent treatment followed by guilt pastries. Next time she tried it, I calmly pulled out the chart. She read it. She turned red. She said, "This is not funny." I said, "It's extremely funny." She tried to restart the guilt trip, but I started tapping the part of the chart labeled Classic Manipulation Loop Initiation. She cracked and started laughing, and she hasn't tried it since. Side note, she now sends me memes instead of emotional sabotage. Growth. I outsmarted a manipulative coworker by becoming her mirror. There was a coworker who always tried to guide me. It sounded helpful, but it was a form of control. She'd say things like, "You don't want to be known as the difficult one. You should handle things my way. It's better for your image. I'm just trying to help you not create enemies." She'd give me advice designed to make her look good and me look incompetent. So one day I decided I'm going to mirror her. Every time she tried to direct me, I'd respond with, "Oh, you should do that. You'd be so much better at it. You're amazing at handling conflict. You should take this one. You have more experience. You should pick the approach." She became overwhelmed by the very responsibility she pushed onto everyone else. Her facade cracked. Her guidance stopped. People noticed her performance issues instead of mine because she couldn't dump tasks on others anymore. She eventually transferred to another department, mirroring works. People hate seeing their own tactics reflected back. I played dumb until my manipulative roommate admitted everything to his girlfriend. My old roommate used to use me as a scapegoat whenever he did something his girlfriend didn't like. He'd say, "Oh, OP wanted to do that," or "OP dragged me out," or "OP forgot to pass on the message." I didn't even like the guy's girlfriend, but I also didn't like being used as his human shield. So I played dumb, like aggressively dumb. He'd say, "Hey man, did you tell Jenna I lost her charger?" I'd respond loudly, "No, why would I tell her that? That was you." He'd panic and try to shush me. I'd pretend not to understand. He'd tell her, "OP said he pressured me to take shots." I'd turn to her and go, "No, you said you weren't sure if you could handle your liquor." He'd melt down. I'd smile. Eventually, in a fit of frustration, he admitted to her he'd been blaming me for everything to avoid arguments. She dumped him. I slept like a baby. The calendar trap. I don't think people realize how quiet manipulation can look when you're inside it. My ex-coworker Jonah was one of those guys who smiled with his teeth but never with his eyes. He'd been slowly trying to edge me out of my own job for months. Harmless mistakes, forgotten messages, accidental deletions of things I'd worked on. The dude was building a whole narrative that I was unreliable, even though I was doing 60-hour weeks and running on cold brew fumes. The most calculated thing I ever did wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was documentation. Like biblical level documentation, I created a separate offline calendar on a USB that never touched the office network. I logged every suspicious accident, time-stamped with screenshots. When he deleted a file, I screenshotted the directory metadata. When he forgot to tell me about a 9 a.m. meeting, I logged the Slack timestamps of when he read the message. When he misquoted something I'd said in a meeting, I wrote down the exact phrasing I had used with the meeting recording timestamps to back it up. I basically built a case diary. After about 2 months of this, he escalated. He emailed our boss this dramatic message about how concerned he was about my mental state because I had lost control of several core tasks. It was the most passive-aggressive assassination attempt I'd ever seen. That was the moment I'd been waiting for. I scheduled a meeting with HR and rolled in with a printed binder, like a freaking dissertation. Every tab labeled, every date recorded, every incident backed by metadata, emails, video clips, and Slack timestamps. I didn't even accuse him of anything. I just laid out a chronological timeline and ended with, either I'm the most unlucky employee alive or someone is doing this intentionally. HR was silent. My boss looked like he swallowed a stapler. Jonah said nothing. The entire meeting just stared at the binder like it was a live bomb. He got fired 2 days later. The best part, he had no idea I even noticed I protected myself by being quieter than him, but much smarter. I made him confess without realizing he was confessing. So, my manipulation story isn't subtle. It's messy, theatrical, and honestly sounds fake even to me. But I swear on everything, this happened. I used to date this guy, let's call him Solar System, because everything revolved around him. He had this creepy talent for making me doubt my own memory. Like I'd say, we agreed to go to my sister's birthday, and he'd smile all soft and say, baby, that was just something you imagined. He'd say it so gently that I'd actually question myself. Small things at first, then bigger ones. Then the biggest one, he tried to convince me I had yelled at him when I'd literally been on FaceTime with my cousin the entire time. So I came up with a plan. I bought this tiny audio recorder, the kind used for interviews, and I kept it on me like it was a heart monitor. Not to catch him. Oh no, my plan was way more controlled than that. I recorded myself describing every real event from each day, like a diary spoken out loud. Who said what decisions were made, what time we did. What basically a live time-stamped archive of my exact memory. Fast forward a month, Solar System tries something new. He tells me dead serious that I had agreed to loan him $2,000 for his work emergency. I said no such thing, he insisted I had. And then he smirked that smirk people get when they think they've cornered you. So I pulled out the recorder. I said, okay, let's listen to what I told myself that night. He froze. We listened to me in my own voice saying, he asked for $2,000 today. I said no. He looked irritated. The man's face broke apart like wet clay. Then here's the best part. He immediately tried to shift the story. You must have edited that, he yelled. And that, my friends, was the moment I had been waiting for. Because I had anticipated that exact defense, I handed him the untouched SD card and said, great, let's take it to a professional lab and check. He shut down hard. He realized finally that he couldn't manipulate someone who was literally archiving her sanity daily. He left the next morning. He never asked for the money again, and I never needed the recordings again. But damn, it felt good to outsmart someone who thought he was 10 steps ahead. Turns out he was standing still. I became boring on purpose. I protected myself by doing what every petty, introverted nerd dreams of: weaponizing boredom. Context: my manipulator was my old roommate, Jenny, a pathological meddler with a Disney princess voice and a CIA agent's curiosity. She loved controlling people by innocently spreading half-truths. She once convinced our landlord I had a dog because she heard scratching. It was literally the pipes. She convinced my ex I was cheating because she saw a stranger in our driveway. It was Uber Eats. She was basically a chaos sprinkler, so when she started trying to manipulate me into isolating from my friends, telling them I didn't really like them, telling me they found me exhausting, I realized she wasn't doing it for power. She was doing it for entertainment. To her, drama was a sport. So I designed the most calculated, boring retaliation in history. I started leaving early, coming home late, eating bland food. I stopped reacting to her stories. I gave one-word answers. If she accused someone of something, I'd shrug and say, huh. If she tried to start drama, I'd say, oh, okay, no spice, no panic, no fight. Then I started doing activities that were impossible to gossip about. Long walks, library visits, reading at parks, grocery shopping once a day, drinking plain water like a sinner. Whenever she tried to bait me into something emotional, I responded like a slow-loading webpage. Guys, Jenny withered. Drama requires a reaction. Manipulators need feedback loops. I gave her nothing. After about 2 months, she finally snapped and screamed, "You're impossible to read." I shrugged and said, "Yeah, been tired lately." That was the moment I watched her soul leave her body. A week later, she moved out because the energy wasn't stimulating anymore. The most calculated thing I ever did to protect myself wasn't a trap. It wasn't revenge. I just became profoundly aggressively, strategically uninteresting. She couldn't manipulate what she couldn't understand or enjoy. And honestly, it was the most peaceful era of my life. I let him think I was still falling for it. My older cousin Daniel had this talent. He could make you feel like you owed him something just for existing. He'd do these nice favors, driving you somewhere, helping with homework, lending you money, and then he'd hold them over your head like a guillotine. Not outright, he'd do it slowly, sweetly, like a snake coiling around you while complimenting your shoes. He started doing it to me when I turned 21. Suddenly, I owed him for everything. He'd say stuff like, "Remember that time I picked you up at midnight? I always take care of you." If I disagreed with him about anything, politics, family, where to eat, he'd exhale dramatically and say, "Wow, after everything I do for you." Eventually, he escalated. He tried to manipulate my parents into thinking I had a drinking problem. He told them he was worried because I was always going out and hiding things. My parents didn't believe him, but they questioned me. And that's when I realized he wasn't just being annoying. He was playing a long game. I had to play one back. So I did something difficult. I pretended I still trusted him. I kept smiling at his comments. I thanked him for the things he did. I let him feel that same false sense of superiority he loved so much. But behind it, I was documenting everything. Texts, times, dates. I told my friends, and slowly, I let him rope himself deeper. He tried to warn my parents again, this time saying I was dating someone dangerous. Except I wasn't dating anyone. I had receipts to prove everything. My texts, my group chats, my maps history. I had clear patterns of him inventing stories. Then I did the most calculated thing I've ever done. I asked my parents if we could all have a calm talk with Daniel. He came over all confident, thinking I was going to cry and apologize. Instead, I laid out chronologically, calmly, quietly, every fabrication he'd made about me for the past 3 months. Screenshots printed, texts highlighted, timelines aligned. He started sweating. My dad asked one question: "Why would you say these things?" Daniel's ego collapsed. He stuttered, then blamed stress. Then said I misunderstood. Then said he was only trying to protect me. I didn't raise my voice once. I didn't insult him. I didn't accuse him. I just showed him his own words. It was the first time I watched a manipulator realize he wasn't the smartest person in the room. He avoids me now. He can't look me in the eye. He knows I saw through him long before he realized I did. People think the best defense against manipulation is fighting back. Sometimes the best defense is letting them think they're still winning until they implode on their own lies. I built a fake life online to smoke him out. Alright, buckle up, because this is either the most paranoid or the most galaxy brain thing I've ever done. My ex-best friend, who I'll call Carter, was addicted to manipulating people through social media. He'd make fake accounts, join group chats pretending to be new friends, and then try to steer conversations. He once convinced our friend that her boyfriend was cheating by messaging her as a concerned stranger. So when Carter turned his sights on me, trying to isolate me from the friend group and telling everyone I'd changed, I did something unhinged. I created a fake version of myself, not a person, a lifestyle. I made a private Instagram and added everyone in our group except Carter. I posted pictures of me doing totally normal things, hiking, cooking, thrifting, but I added little details that only someone spying would care about, like vague captions. Had the weirdest DM today, lol. or pictures of random gifts saying, "Who keeps sending me these?" Then I sat back and waited. Within a week, one of my friends got a DM from a new account with a username similar to Carter's old burner accounts. "Hey, I think OP is hiding something, don't tell them, but..." And then proceeded to describe things only visible on my private page. Boom, caught. So I kept going. I posted something like, "Thinking of switching jobs, but unsure who to trust." 2 days later, another fake account messaged one of my friends saying I was making irresponsible decisions. Then I dropped the bait, a picture of a random locked box with the caption, "When you find something you weren't supposed to." I swear on my life this man panicked. He sent 4 different burner accounts trying to ask my friends what I found. Then one account said, "If OP found something they shouldn't have, it could be dangerous. Maybe warn them. Warn me about my own imaginary box." That's when I printed everything and confronted him in front of the group, not aggressively, just laid out the burner accounts, the screenshots, and how the details matched my fake posts. Everyone turned on him instantly. He tried to deny it. I had timestamps. He tried to say someone else did it. I had linguistic analyses. Because yes, I am that level of petty. He ended up moving cities 6 months later. Protecting myself required creating a fake little digital terrarium and waiting for the rat to crawl inside. I pretended to be clueless while I prepared an escape tunnel. My most calculated move wasn't about revenge at all. It was survival. I dated someone who was very good at psychological manipulation, the slow eroding kind. He'd say things like, "You get confused sometimes," or "You know your memory isn't great," until I started second-guessing my own thoughts. He'd hide things and then find them to make me feel forgetful. He'd tell people I was emotional so that if I cried, they'd already be primed to dismiss me. The moment I realized what was happening, something inside me clicked. I didn't confront him. Confrontation only gives manipulators new paths to twist you. I went silent, still predictable. I smiled when he lied. I nodded when he corrected me. I apologized when he fabricated something I did. On the surface, I looked like the perfect pliable version of the person he wanted, but underneath, I was building an escape tunnel, brick by brick. I secretly opened a new bank account. I updated my documents. I stored important items at a friend's house. I deleted my social media and made new locked accounts. I quietly reached out to people he'd pushed away. I checked my credit for unauthorized activity. I packed a bag and hid it behind my winter coats. Then one morning when he went on a work trip, I left, just left. No goodbye letter, no confrontation, no explanation. He came back to an empty apartment and a lease he had to finish alone. He tried calling me from 10 different numbers. I didn't answer. He tried finding me through mutual friends, but I had warned them in advance with proof of his manipulation. I didn't fight him. I didn't play his games. I didn't let him twist reality one last time. I simply walked out of his maze before he realized the door was even unlocked. The most calculated thing I ever did was make myself invisible until the exact moment I didn't need him anymore. And God, it was freeing. I recorded everything, and it saved my life. My former supervisor, Mel, was the queen of covert manipulation. She spoke softly, smiled constantly, and lied so smoothly you didn't realize the blade was already in your back. She'd praise me in meetings. OP does such excellent work. Then privately tell executives that I was unreliable, emotional, or struggling with deadlines. I didn't notice. At first, I just knew my performance reviews suddenly dipped. Projects were slipping away from me. People avoided me. She'd say, "I'm just trying to help you improve," while undoing everything I did. The breaking point was when she called me into her office and said, "Some colleagues have expressed concerns about your stability." I asked who. She gave a fake sympathetic sigh and said, "I can't reveal that it's confidential." I walked out knowing 2 things. She'd invented the entire thing. She was trying to destroy my job. So I did the most calculated thing I've ever done. I became invisible. I stopped reacting. I stopped emotionally responding. I wrote every conversation down in a digital log time date, exact quotes. I copied emails to a secure drive. I saved Slack messages. I backed everything up twice. I kept a notebook specifically for interactions with her, documenting her concerns, her inconsistencies, her contradictions. Then I waited. The moment came when she tried to issue a performance improvement plan based on flat-out lies, missed deadlines that weren't missed, unprofessional behavior that never happened. I asked HR for a meeting, calm, neutral, and then I pulled out the log, the emails, the time-stamped chat messages, the file metadata showing she altered deadlines after the fact recordings, legal in my state, of her contradicting herself. I will never forget the look on her face. This tiny twitch like reality had finally punched her in the ribs. HR went pale. Mel went silent, and I sat there steady as a stone. 2 weeks later, she was transitioned out of her position. I got a private apology from the director. My review was rewritten, my projects reinstated. People at work asked me how I stayed so calm through everything. Calm, no calculated. She tried to gaslight me out of my career. I made sure the truth was louder than her lies. T of my career. I moved out without telling him, but only after he confessed to things he didn't know. I heard my ex Ryan wasn't the screaming punching type. He was the sighing, guilt-tripping, everything is your fault type. He'd twist words like balloon animals and hand them back to me like they were gifts. If I was upset, he'd say, "You're just interpreting things incorrectly." If I had a valid concern, "You always jump to conclusions." If I caught him lying, "You're imagining things again." Over time, he stopped needing to gaslight me. I did it to myself. I'd apologize before I even understood what I was apologizing for. The moment everything shifted was accidental. He didn't know the baby monitor was still connected. He was in the living room telling his friend, laughing, that he could make me believe literally anything if he used the right tone of voice. He bragged about moving my keys, deleting texts, telling me I lost track of time when he changed the clocks. It was like listening to someone narrate the murder of your sanity. I didn't say a word. I didn't confront him. Not then. For the next 2 weeks, I played along. I acted confused, apologetic, gentle. He relaxed, he got sloppy. He stopped hiding his manipulations because he assumed I was already too broken to notice. But during those same 2 weeks, I planned my escape. New bank account, a lawyer, a storage unit, a therapist to document what had been happening, a safety plan with my sister, copies of everything. The morning I left, he was in the shower. I loaded my car with the last box, my hands shaking, but not from fear, adrenaline. Clarity, freedom. He came out of the bathroom just as I grabbed my keys. His face changed. "Where are you going?" "To get the rest of my life back," I said, and walked out. He begged, he threatened, he apologized, he denied. I didn't respond to a single message. The best part, when he tried to tell mutual friends that I had a mental break, I sent them the recording. The monitor had saved everything, start to finish, his confession, his cruelty, his jokes. He ended up losing several friends, and one even confronted him publicly about it. Sometimes protecting yourself isn't loud. Sometimes it's packing in silence while the villain is singing in the living room. I let her set her own trap, and then I pulled the floor out. My former roommate, Ashley, wasn't evil. She was strategic, weaponized insecurity. Every conversation was a negotiation she needed to win, even if there was nothing at stake. She manipulated people through sympathy. OOP is mad at me for no reason. OOP is controlling. OOP is scaring me. Meanwhile, she was stealing food, taking my clothes, reading my journal, and lying about me to our landlord. The final straw was when she told him I'd threatened her. Didn't say how, didn't say when, just enough vagueness to plant doubt. Suddenly, I was being questioned about my behavior. That was when something cold and brilliant clicked inside me. I stopped defending myself. I stopped correcting her lies. I stopped reacting entirely, because manipulators need oxygen. And I was about to suffocate her strategy. I knew she followed patterns. She'd always escalate a lie if she thought she could get away with it. She enjoyed the attention too much, so I waited, documenting every petty act, Every weird thing she did, every stolen item, every contradiction. Finally, she told the landlord I'd been sneaking into her room at night. A bold lie, a big lie. The kind of lie someone tells when they think they're untouchable. Perfect. Because I had already installed a small motion sensor camera in the hallway pointed at my own door after the journal incident. Turns out Ashley was entering my room. Often, sometimes while I was at class, sometimes when she thought I was asleep. When the landlord called another behavior meeting, I showed up with a folder. I said nothing. I just pressed play. Ashley's face drained of color. The landlord nearly choked on air. I didn't yell. I didn't gloat. I just said, "I'll be moving out by the end of the week." The landlord told her to leave instead. Protecting yourself from a manipulator isn't always playing their game. Sometimes it's quietly collecting the receipts until the day you get to say, "Actually, here's the truth."